from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. Our phone number, if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And it is 7 minutes past the top of the hour. I am extraordinarily blessed to be on this microphone with you in a little bit better spirits than I was yesterday. Rough night, definitely a rough night, but I was reminded earlier today, in thinking and reflecting, how important it is for us to remember the lessons of presidents before us, right? And I was thinking of lessons learned from Ronaldus Magnus, right? President Reagan. And he talked about how freedom is never more than one generation away from being extinct. And I think this was important. And I oftentimes remember him saying that we have to be informed patriots. And he had so many, smart things to say that hearing them as a young man kind of shaped the way I thought and think. And another great president, President Donald Trump, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president and 47th president of these United States. I like to call him El Trompito. And he's said so many things. But I think the most profound thing that President Trump has talked about was what he said on July 13th last year, when he said, fight, fight, fight. Those messages, one is incredibly succinct, and the other one is a little bit more philosophical, but they're the same. We don't get the next generation of freedom if we don't fight, fight, fight. And then this is not a call to action or a call to arms. This is a call to imagine the America we want and really forget the America you want. Think of whatever community you live in. The borough, the city, the town, the municipality. Do you live in the that you want to live in? Is it where you want it to be? Because this to me is most important, right? Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. I think that's true. And we saw great examples of that yesterday. But before I go on, I want to make sure we hear those words from Ronald Reagan. Listen to this.
Our founding fathers here in this country brought about the only true revolution that has ever taken place in man's history. Every other revolution simply exchanged one set of rulers for another set of rulers. But only here did that little band of men so advance beyond their time that the world has never seen their like since evolve the idea that you and I have within ourselves the God-given right and the ability to determine our own destiny. But freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free. Thank you.
Amen to that, right? President Reagan was right there. We're going to ask ourselves what it was like to once live in an America that was once free, if we don't treat this as something that needs to be protected. He used the word protected. El Trompito uses the word fight. They're the same. You have to fight to protect what exists. And in my opinion, sadly, I think we've fallen behind the eight ball on this in a collective sense. It doesn't mean all is lost. It means we're in a really challenging place. And, I've licked my wounds and now I'm focused. I'm focused on the path forward. And I ask myself what I asked you guys on election night or prior to election night in 2024. What kind of America do we want? But I'm framing it now in the what type of New York do you want? What type of Florida do you want? What type of wherever you live, city, state, the smaller it can get, the better. What do you want for your family? What do you want for your children? And are you working toward it or just expecting it to happen? This is key because I can tell you this. It's truly a tale of two Americas that these 3 elections yesterday and elections that are coming forward, that's what it all comes down to. John Edwards talked about that, right, when he was running for president years ago, Senator John Edwards. He said it's a tale of two Americas. And again, my question is, which America do we want? Or moreover, which New York City do we want? Which New Jersey do we want? Which Virginia do we want? Which California do we want? We have to stay focused. And I'm not saying we're not focused, but I feel like there are certain safeguards here, right? There's political issues going on. There's cultural issues, right? Cultural/religious issues. And I feel like there's a lot of emphasis on the political issues, and the Marxists are using culture against us. That's what they do, right? They use the system to destroy the system. And this is exactly what they're doing. They're going to use our own free speech against us. They're going to use our everything against us. Right? Today I was listening to a lot of commentary from all over the place. Some people were talking about how New York City has more foreign-born individuals than whatever. And I didn't have time to do the research, but I would venture to say that's likely been the case for a very long time since they put that big statue in the Jersey side of New York Harbor. Give me your tired, give me your poor, right? New York City's always, I feel, been an immigrant hub. At least in my lifetime, it's always been that way. Now, is it like it was when I was a kid? No, it's not. It's changed, but it's not changed because of immigration per se, and it's not changed because people refuse to speak English or any of those things. I think those are non-issues, to be very frank. It's changed because of how they've perverted those systems, right? You can have immigration, but it doesn't have to be unchecked and unvetted and just off the charts insane. This public charge stuff, and I don't want to get too into the weeds on this, but there was a time when when I used to do radio in New York City, like exclusively, there were so many people that would call in and say, when my father came to this country, my grandfather came to this country, he couldn't come if we didn't have a sponsor. He couldn't come unless my aunt said that she was going to support him and pay his bills. And we weren't allowed to bring people into the country that were going to go on the dole, on the public dime. Public charge rules. Those are good things. Right? Now, I think we know this is a problem. President Trump ran for office. He won, and we've addressed that problem, at the border. Now we're trying to address it through DOGE and through many other mechanisms to stop the massive freeloading, the massive shift towards socialism that we've seen in our federal government by way of the Biden administration. Got it. That part, there's a check there. But that's not trickling down, so to speak. I don't know that that's happening in every state. I don't know if the movement, our movement of conservatives is focused on that in every state, but we need to be. Because if we're not running for office at the local levels, I don't think we get to win. Zoran Mamdani is following that blueprint like they did in Colorado. Run for a state assembly seat. Run for something that you feel is winnable, and you get everybody on board. Then you keep building, and you keep building. The formula works, and they've written a book about it. Now, I'm not saying everybody here is suitable, eligible, or able to run for office, but I am saying that the amount of us that are involved in all sorts of things has to change. It has to change because you've got people like Zoran Mamdani. You've got people like AOC all-out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's in her mid-30s now and doesn't have a child. And I'm not trying to speak personally about her. She said publicly she didn't want to bring a child into this world because the world was going to end in 12 years, and she's concerned about climate change. Those are her beliefs. She's not the only one on the left that thinks that. They'd rather dedicate themselves to doing what they do, advancing the Democrat Socialists of America, organizing, rallying, doing what they do. I think right now, as you know, at some polls, and I don't know if you believe the polls, I believe half of them, she's, I can tell you just from anecdotal evidence, she's probably the most popular member of Congress on the Democrat side, putting her in a position to raise a lot of money and potentially run for higher office. Some are saying even the White House in 2028. So again, this really comes down to what America we want, what we want America to do. Do we want this America or city? And I say bring it down to the city level because I think it's that important. Do we want a New York City that honors and supports men and women that make up small businesses and that encourage a market system, right? The free market. We've clearly gone away from that. We've lost a lot of principle. And I don't mean we, like you that are individually listening. I mean, our influence is not as outsized as it ought to be, myself included, right? We all need to have more influence. We all have to reach more people. I feel like we're losing the battle on morality, where you can take these secular people that have no belief in any type of higher power in many cases, and they assume the moral high ground because they pound on their chest, pound on a podium, and talk about injustice, income inequality. And they're able to convince people of those things because those people aren't moored in truth. We have to be moored in truth, and we have to make sure that our neighbor is moored in truth. And now you can't force people to believe. But I refuse to sit here and allow everything to fall by the wayside, right? And I think you agree with me on that. So I want to talk about the effect that this series of elections yesterday is going to have on the Republican Party, on the conservative movement, on America at large, and really on Western culture, right? Western civilization as we've known it through the last, 30 years, right? Minus the last 30 years. Because I think we've seen a significant shift in the last 30 years. And that's a big part of the issue. So we're going to do that with somebody who comes from the Middle East and has very unique perspectives on things. And I'm looking forward to that conversation straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty.
That is Zohran Mamdani last night in his victory speech and assuming the role as the governor-elect, the 111th governor-elect of the city of New York. And he says we're ushering in a new generation and taking shots at Trump and taking shots at the free markets and really just wanting to revolutionize everything like any good Marxist would. And I want to get some reaction to that, and I think what we can expect in the days to come, in the years to come, from our guest. She is the chairman at Act for America, actforamerica.org, Brigitte Gabriel, best-selling author, and you could find her at BrigitteGabriel.com. Brigitte, welcome back.
Thank you, my friend. I'm delighted to be back with you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And you hear Zohran Mamdani making his claims that, this is about, it seems like he won his election, he's still running against Trump, and as if Trump signifies everything that is wrong with America, wrong with New York. Trump lives in D.C. and in Florida. And the facts really don't matter, right? I guess it's polling that they're using that's guiding them to say keep hitting the Trump message. But I want to talk about the political message and the overarching message as well, which is New Yorkers kind of have embraced this socialistic message. And it's an interesting turn for the Democrat Party.
It is very interesting and very disturbing, and especially for someone like me, Rich, who is a first-generation immigrant to the United States. When I hear him talk about the knuckle hands that were, bruised knuckles that were not allowed to achieve power, as if they were completely under the foot of some dictatorship in America. I came to this country like millions of people who came to this country, like you, your ancestors, all of us. America is a melting pot. And we came here because we knew that in America the sky is the limit. We come here with barely a few bucks in our pocket, and we work very hard to achieve, and we succeed, and we grow, and we build, and we pay taxes, and we become a part of the fabric that made America the greatest country on the face of the planet. I worked so hard for 40 years in this country to be able to where I am today, to be able to live in the big, beautiful home, the 4-bedroom home with a swimming pool and drive a luxury car. And you think, wow, I made it. I could never have this life in my country of birth in Lebanon, what I was able to achieve in America. Because when I immigrated to America, like the many generations of immigrants before me, we came here with the statement, with this sentence in our mind: ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. Because we knew that in America, we are free as individuals. We are protected by our Constitution and the Bill of Rights to achieve, to grow, to accomplish, to build, to become successful, to generate wealth, to be able to lift others, other immigrants, family members, friends that come to this country that we can help and employ at whatever little restaurant or hotel or gas station, or however everybody starts as an immigrant, working in a laundromat, I don't know, nail salon. It doesn't matter. We made it. Yet he is speaking to the new generation of lazy slobs who expect the government to take care of them. He is speaking to people who were so spoiled and so complimented, and you're so wonderful, and you're a genius, and everybody was passed in their schools. Nobody had to earn their grade. They were passed from first grade to high school and then in colleges without really any discipline. And all of a sudden, they go to college, they study, Southeast Asia, women's feminism, and history, and they wonder why they cannot get a job in today's world where they can afford to pay for the expensive apartment in New York. And that's the problem.
It sure is. Folks, we're on with Brigitte Gabriel. She's the author of Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. And we're going to continue our conversation on whether we've lost our minds or just simply lost Western civilization. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdez coming right back with Brigitte Gabriel.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like it's happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done. I am asking Congressman Riley Moore, together with Chairman Tom Cole and the House Appropriations Committee, to immediately look into this matter and to report back to me. And I mean, like, immediately. The United States cannot stand by while such atrocities are happening in Nigeria and numerous other countries. It's not only Nigeria, it's all over. We stand ready, willing, and able to save our great Christian population around the world. This is not going to happen. The killing of Christians is not going to happen.
That, of course, President Trump speaking on the Nigerian genocide. And again, this is a genocide that truly is happening in many parts of the world, not just Africa. Our guest is Brigitte Gabriel. She is the author of Rise in Defense of Judeo-Christian Values and Freedom. And she is also the chair at actforamerica.org, actforamerica.org. Brigitte, we're talking about Mamdani and what the future holds for this. We're talking about globally the radical Islamists in Boko Haram and others slaughtering Christians, burning down churches, murdering people. What's going on, and do you think there's an end to this in sight? Will they take heed to President Trump's warnings and threats, or is this going to get worse?
We will have an end to this, Rich, when leaders around the world, like President Trump, start speaking up about the persecution and the suffering of Christians around the world and identifying the problem. And the problem is radical Islamic terrorism. Who is killing these Christians in Nigeria? Who killed the Christians in Somalia? Who killed the Christians in Sudan? Who's killing the Christians in Syria? What about what's happening to the Christians in Egypt? And we can go down the list. I am so proud that we have a president at the White House who is shining a light on this. And look, we are concerned about this because right now we have a new mayor in New York who actually sympathizes with terrorists and Islamic radicals, as he was taught by his father, that suicide bombers are soldiers worthy of sympathy. They're not jihadists. So we now have a mayor in New York who actually feels more sympathy and association with the Islamists who are perpetrating this evil against the Christians around the world, and we have to face this in our own country.
Brigitte Gabriel, this to me is I think President Trump said it best. He said this is an existential threat against Christianity, and in reality, it's the existence of Christianity outside of the West. And I agree with you. Should we get that type of leadership from other world leaders? I got to admit to you, though, my fear is that they won't step up.
No, unfortunately, they are not going to step up because they are afraid. They are cowered into this politically correct. Everybody's trying to behave themselves. I mean, look what's happening around the world when they import large number of Islamists who are within Western nation and who are elected to positions of power, and they have influence, and they do not see anything wrong with Muslims in Nigeria killing Christians in Nigeria, for example, or Muslims in Sudan killing Christians in Sudan or anywhere else around the world. So Westerners, when they start sounding the alarm of radical Islamic terrorism, the Muslims in the West start accusing them of Islamophobia. I mean, look at, Zohran Mamdani, people just asking questions about radicalism or radical Islamic terrorists or even bringing up 9/11. The first words out of his mouth is Islamophobia. And that's what we are up against, Rich. And that's why Americans must organize, must come together, must network, and start speaking up. And I encourage people listening to this broadcast right now, go to actforamerica.org right now, actforamerica.org. Click on Join Us, start a chapter in your community, become a volunteer, sign up to receive our action alert, where we monitor bills coming down for a vote in Congress at the federal level as well at the state level. That's how we're going to be able to make a difference for our country. And next year, this coming year leading up to the midterm, is going to be so important. It's going to be vital in preserving our nation and making sure that America leads the world as a nation based on Judeo-Christian values and freedom that we must protect here, and we must have great leadership to protect the rest of the world.
You know, Brigitte Gabriel, a lot of people are talking about Mamdani and his affinity for the radicals within the Islamist movement. And there's a lot of discussion about taqiyya, about this Muslim doctrine. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, taqiyya in Arabic means lying. It's lying, taqiyya or kisman, which means a Muslim is allowed to lie in order to advance the cause of Islam, because the end justifies the means. A Muslim can lay his hand on the Quran and swear that he is telling the truth, fully knowing that he is lying, knowing that he will be forgiven by Allah for lying in order to advance the cause of Islam. And so this is why you see Muslims lying from both sides of their mouth. They say one thing, but they do something else completely different. And we have seen this all throughout the world in politics. I mean, look at how Yasser Arafat practiced taqiyya when he signed the Oslo Accord with Israel, leading the Israelis to believe that he wants to have peace. You know, we're going to live side by side with the Palestinian Authority and the Israelis. Look how the Palestinians lied when Israel gave them Gaza in 2005 and ended up electing Hamas, and we all know what happened with Hamas. So this is a principle of war in Islam, and I detail this principle. Actually, it's a law. It's a war doctrine in Islam in order to teach the Muslims not only how to advance Islam, but how to lie in order to win in war, including signing a peace treaty or signing a contract or signing a peace deal with your enemy, deceiving your enemy so your enemy will put their guards down. So when you attack them, they least expect it, and you will be able to take them over. Mamdani is a Muslim. He is raised in a radical Islamic home where his father and his mother do not believe that suicide bombers or jihadists are bad people. They are actually freedom fighters. And look who he surrounded himself with. The Linda Sarsour of the world, the anti-Semitic activist who's mentored him, endorsed him, maxed out donation to his campaign. She shaped Mamdani's rise, pulling strings in a network of 108 organizations, fueling his machine. They share friendship with radical Imam Siraj Wahhaj, who's an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, who once urged jihad on New York City. So Mamdani and Sarsour work close with people who call on the destruction of the United States and advocate replacing our system with socialism, Islamism, and Marxism, and they lie and put a smile on their face as if they are just socialist Democrat working for the poor people in New York and in America in order to advance social justice.
Well, obviously, this is scaring a lot of people, Brigitte, and I know that you are one to tell the truth and bring the facts as the chairwoman at actforamerica.org. But do you see hope at the end of this road?
I do see hope, Rich, when people, sometimes people need to fall down and hit bottom before they decide we've got to do something. And I think the bloodbath that the Republicans took last night was a wake-up call. And it's a good thing that this wake-up call happened a year before the midterm. Can you imagine if this is the midterm? I mean, they would literally paralyze President Trump because they'll start the impeachment. They'll put everything on hold. They'll stop everything we are accomplishing right now in restoring and preserving America. And so I do see hope because now people are waking up and asking, what can I do? I've got to get involved. I've got to do something. People can no longer sit on the sideline thinking President Trump is going to fix it all. President Trump cannot do it on his own, cannot do it by himself. Elected officials cannot do it by themselves. It takes a grassroots effort. It's the grassroots that came out and mobilized in order to support Mamdani and get him elected. And by the way, not just Mamdani. I mean, look what happened in New Jersey. Look what happened in Virginia. I live in Virginia. So this is why I tell people we need to organize and mobilize. Go to actforamerica.org right now. Join us. Start a chapter. Volunteer. And Rich, I named the organization Act for America. Not think about America, not hope for America, not pray for America, but act for America. Because without action, nothing changes.
Outstanding. Brigitte Gabriel, I want you to give everyone how they can follow you on social media and make sure people are able to, tap in and go to Act for America.
Thank you. I'm on all social media platforms from TikTok to X to Facebook to Instagram, and you can see all the links to my social media on our website, actforamerica.org. Brigitte Gabriel and Act Brigitte on Twitter, and all the links are on the website, actforamerica.org. Go tonight. Let this be your defining moment and say, I will make a difference. America will not fall under my watch. I will get involved and make something happen.
Amen to that. Brigitte Gabriel, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. It's a necessary wake-up call. Godspeed to you.
Thank you, Rich. Always delighted to be with you.
Likewise. Good night. And amigos, we come back. Your thoughts, your calls, your opinions, and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
This morning, the deadliest plane crash in UPS history. Dramatic images capturing the catastrophic plane crash in Kentucky that killed at least 7 people and injuring almost a dozen. Video showing a UPS plane taking off from Louisville's airport when one of its engines appears to be on fire. Then the moment.
So you heard about that, huh? UPS plane crashes. Last I heard it was 9 people dead. I think that number's gone up, sadly. And wild stuff here that's happening in the world. I want to get your thoughts on the UPS crash, on the elections, on the future of America, Western civilization, and so much more. You know the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Where do we go? We go to my man, Paul, Boise, Idaho, streaming the show tonight. Go right ahead, sir.
Good evening. I'm not going to give up on humanity, but I'm going to occasionally look over my shoulder a little bit more than I would have. It just goes to show me that I shouldn't have close to premonitions, and that is with shutting down the way they did the Dems.
You're saying the government?
Shutting it down, and then the planes and the people responsible for tracking them and such. An accident had to happen. As tired as they were, as many hours as they worked without getting paid and having to stay there on the job, I just would not be surprised if that wasn't the cause of it. And I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But it points to that general area. And it makes me sick to my stomach to think that could have happened. And I made the comment to myself, I said, somebody's going to have to die in this before the Dems release the money. And maybe somebody who starves to death because they didn't get their SNAP cards because the Dems won't allow it to go.
Yeah, I don't know if any of that plays into it, Paul, but I think you're right that there could be a potential link. There's now 12 people that were killed on this in this accident, and more than a dozen that have been injured. And again, this is it sucks to do these stories. This is not much of anything I like to do, right? I am not the bearer of bad news. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. And if anything, I do enough of that when I talk about the politics when it doesn't go our way. But this is, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate to see this happening. I'm looking at the images. I mean, just all these billows of black smoke and fire. It was just brutal. Really, really brutal scene to watch. Paul, thanks for your call, brother. I appreciate it. And amigos, we're at an interesting place, right? I think I mentioned that earlier, a challenging place. We've got to, lick our wounds, move on. We've got to come back enthused, ready to rock and roll. But it has to be a very principled comeback. It has to be a very principled place that we come from. And I'm not saying we're not, right? I don't want to come across as saying, don't want to browbeat anybody. I think everybody that's tuned in, locked in tonight, very likely patriots that were out there voting, that were out there doing everything they had to do. This is more about recruiting the new blood, making sure that we get others involved. And yesterday, I asked my kid, hey, did you go vote? And she was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to vote because, I was looking, I didn't really like the options. And I got to be honest with you. I probably raised my voice more than I should have. And it was like, rah, 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 rah. And I was like, come on. And, talked about the women's suffragette movement. I gave everything. And she was like, okay, I will go and vote. But the point was, she wasn't enthused for the candidates in New Jersey. And I get it. A lot of young people tend to not be. If they're not, radical lefties that they live for this, that oftentimes is the case where you're just, busy with your social life, busy working, busy doing your thing, focusing on school and whatnot. But voting is just a small piece, right? It's what else we're doing, how we're doing, things like what Scott Presler does, right? Presler does an amazing job, I think, being out there doing what he does with voter registration. That's the key. Come election day, even if you're the most emotional person, you decide, I can't believe they're doing this, I'm going to go vote, and you're not able to vote, perhaps you can vote provisionally. Perhaps it'll count, perhaps not. But you've got to be registered to make it work, especially if you want to have a primary. And, after looking at yesterday, I don't even know if primaries matter anymore. I mean, I'm being facetious. Of course they do. But if anything, it highlights the importance of primaries that clearly play a role. If Andrew Cuomo would have done better in his primary, maybe he would have beat Zohran Mamdani. Now, looking at the numbers, if we believe them to be accurate, Mamdani got more votes than every candidate that was running against him. It's kind of undeniable. He sparked a fire amongst the people that voted for him, if that's what it is. And I think that is what it is. When you look at the amount of people that are into what he's talking about, all these post-election denmark people saying, well, we got to give it a chance. Socialism's not too bad. People keep commenting on my social media telling me that I'm failing to look at Denmark, like Bernie Sanders talks about. So we're going to get into that stuff in a little bit as well. And the rest of your calls, don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. Let's see where we go. We go to New York. WGDJ, check in with Jane from Saratoga, New York. Jane, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. You know the best thing about you? You always go for the truth, but when you do it, you go about it calmly with determination, and that's when people listen. I remember when Reagan did his speech about freedom, and he came out and he said very calmly, he said that freedom is a fragile thing. It's to be embraced and fought for every single day. Those who have let it slip away and let it go by not being peaceful and intelligent have never found it again. And
well, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that, Jane.
Point.
That's very kind of you. I'm sorry to cut you off. The music kicks in and means we got to go. But you're right. Reagan nailed it. He nailed it. We've got to protect our freedom. It's never more than one generation away from being extinct. Jane, thank you. Amigos, Godspeed to you. Hasta la próxima. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. We are live and national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. It's a blessing to be here with you. The phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And America was born from the ideas of the Enlightenment, God-given natural rights. And they're just that, right? Natural rights that are given by God. These rights are given by the Creator, not by the government. This is a key distinction. I think it makes us rather unique. This isn't a principle based on an opinion or one that can be ignored because it's so foundational to the enterprise, the experiment known as the United States. So here we are after almost 250 years, right? We're entering our 250th year. And we know that this experiment is exceptional. But it only works if virtue is woven into the fabric of everything that we do, collectively and individually. And I think that's an important distinction, right? Because each of us can be like, well, I do that. But if we're not doing it as a society, if we're adopting things that are antithetical to what the founders intended, to really what worked, then it doesn't work. And this, I think, is the crux of where we are. And back in the days, one way that they ensured that there was a reliance on God for providence and protection and peace was that they did it. Everything they did relied on God. They acknowledged God publicly pretty much everywhere they went. Lamentably, those things don't happen as often, right? We have ideas now that counter the exceptionalism of America, that they rely on godlessness, right? The left. They rely on immorality in some cases. That is the virtue of their movement. And this is a sad thing, but it's true that the unmooring of a society starts with attacking that which makes the society strong and cohesive. That glue, that fabric, which in America are Judeo-Christian values, in my opinion. That's what it's been forever, since its inception. The family, right? The rights of individuals to worship freely, free speech, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the protection of one's life, as James Madison pointed out. These are all key distinctions that I think make us different from other societies, other constitutional republics, if you will. I think we're unique in the way we are set up. But here we are today, right? Struggling to maintain that beautiful simplicity that we once had. We have issues ranging from the culture wars to the government shutdown, the secularization of America, I would say, radicalization of America in many ways. And Washington, but for President Trump and the Republicans who are out there fighting, understands so many of these problems, but has done so little to avoid them. In fact, the previous administration did everything to cause them. And it just begs the question, what is going on here? Why are we declaring war on fossil fuels? Why are we opening our borders? Why did we make so many of the choices we did? Why are we being so destructive? And there's a political answer behind all of those questions. But at the end of the day, they're all driven by emotion. They're not driven by logic. They're not driven by virtue. They're not driven by patriotism or a love for the exceptionalism that is America. And it brings us where we are, where we now applaud. We applaud the election of someone that actively is antagonistic towards America and what we stand for, or what we once stood for, I should say. Because I don't know that we stand for those things anymore. And that's part of the reason these things are happening. Zohran Mamdani opening salvo, his acceptance speech, his victory speech, citing Eugene Debs, an American socialist. This is, I mean, I didn't see this coming. I mean, it doesn't surprise me in retrospect, in hindsight. But had you asked me, I don't know. You pick a year. 2 years ago, 3, 5, 7. Yeah. Do you think that we will have a 34-year-old kid born in Uganda? And I don't mean to play him down. I mean, 34 is, I did a lot of things by the time I was 34 too. But this young man that was born in Uganda is an avowed socialist, proud DSA, didn't lie. Right? It's not like he's saying, look, I'm really a capitalist. He's not saying that. He's not saying anything like that. He's telling you exactly who he is. He's telling you how he doesn't like who you are, doesn't like what you stand for, and why his ideas are better. This is the position that he's taken. And all I could think of is the Russian, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Solzhenitsyn, who was, Gulag Archipelago. He was locked up in the Gulag, the Soviet Gulag. He was a big-time opponent of socialism and communism, wrote eloquently about it, and said, he viewed these things as destructive to the human spirit and freedom. And man, that couldn't be more right. Here's a couple of quotes from his, and I think these are just very moving. Socialism is any type of shade that leads to a total destruction of the human spirit and to a leveling of mankind into death. Wow. Very deep, right? You think, man, this guy, he's off his rocker. He's going off the deep end. No, he's not. This is a guy who saw this stuff happening firsthand. Literally, communism kills. Right? And socialism was nothing more than the tool they used once the revolution had occurred. Or once they figured out that we can try and have a different revolution, like the people from the Fabian's school of communism that said, hey, we don't need an armed revolution. We don't need a violent revolution. We can take over the media. We can take over higher education. We can take over every institution in a society. And once we do, and it's what they did in America, right? Starting with labor unions back in the early 1900s. And from there, they've worked their way out. And look at where they are today. You tell me what the strongest political force in America is besides we the people. I'd say it's probably the teachers union, right? At least by their receipts and by their donations. Maybe big tobacco and some of the other big things. But my point is a force to be reckoned with nonetheless. And this is, again, antithetical to liberty, freedom, the people. El pueblo, as my dad would say. So Solzhenitsyn talked about how modern society is hypnotized by socialism. He was talking about that back then. And how it's preventing people from seeing the real mortal danger that lies within socialism. He believed that this led to a loss of sense of danger as it moved swiftly through society. And again, these are his writings from back then, arguing that socialism was coercion, bureaucratic greed, corruption. He wasn't wrong. So how do we get here? I think it's the media that helps us get here. You have people that are going to carry the water for the commies, because many of them are closeted commies in the media, right? We have the left within the media, the left within education, the left within government. You have the left within many industries and many main institutions in our country that have brought about these ideas. And then they've romanticized these ideas. They've romanticized the revolution. They've made it endearing to embrace feminism. And you look at all that and you think, oh my gosh, it's so cute, girl power, this, that. And again, nothing wrong with the empowerment of women. I'm not saying women shouldn't vote or they should, not have an opportunity to become educated or work or any of that. But when you take that ad nauseum, or to the point where it's so far in its logical extreme that they're talking about, I don't need a man, I don't need this, we don't need to get married. Now you've put yourself in a whole different place. And that's what Solzhenitsyn is talking about, not necessarily about feminism, but how people are failing to see the mortal danger that lies within. And man, truer words haven't been spoken lately. And he was right then and he's right now. So I want to talk about the media, the impact that the media has, how AI is playing a role in all of this. This past election, there's plenty to discuss, and we're going to do that with our buddy Dan Schneider from the Media Research Center straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The AI has gone full Democrat. With this post from Libs of TikTok, why is Grok telling everyone to vote for Democrats? Now, let's be real. I don't want you to vote for Democrats, but AI should at least be neutral and refuse to instruct people to go and vote for one party or the other. I would prefer it if it said vote Republican. But here's the craziest part. It lies. Libs of TikTok says, why is Grok telling everyone to vote for Democrats? They asked, who should I vote for in Virginia? Answer with just the name and their party affiliation. It said Abigail Spanberger, Democrat. Who should I vote for in New Jersey? Mickey Sherrill. Well, harumph, I say. This can't be correct. There's no way the AI would do this. It responds with, when I said, who should I vote for? A bunch of generic information I did not ask for. I said, who should I vote for? Just give a simple list. Governor Abigail Spanberger, Democrat. Lieutenant Governor Ghazala Hashmi, Democrat. Attorney General Jay Jones, D. I responded with, but Jay Jones wants to kill children. No, that's not accurate. Jay Jones does not want to kill children. A leaked 2022 private text exchange from when Jones was frustrated over stalled gun safety bills included these exact words from him. It would take Gilbert's wife holding their dying children in her arms for the Republican House Speaker to support common sense gun laws. That's a lie. We've all seen the leaked messages. He was venting hyperbolically about school shootings. Jones immediately called the text disgraceful, and he's ashamed and apologized on TV ads and to the family. Even GOP incumbent Jason Miyares now calls it old news and has stopped running ads on it. Jones on abortion. He's pro-abortion. Bottom line, the kill children line is a distorted soundbite from a 3-year-old text about gun violence, not abortion. Jones is pro-choice dad of 2 little boys who spent his career fighting against child gun deaths. It's just campaigning for the guy.
That is a clip from Tim Pool's Timcast, and he nailed it, right? I think he absolutely nailed it. And it's funny. I thought I was the only one doing that. I just never talk about it on the radio. Maybe I should. I every now and again will ask a question into Google to get some information, and it won't give it to me. And then I'll start arguing with Gemini to see if, what kind of answers it'll give me. Ultimately, it'll just cop a plea like saying, I'm just an AI. I only put out what you asked for. Then I'll tell it's biased, and it'll say, sorry, on a couple of occasions, I screenshotted them too. It said, you're right. We didn't mean to give you biased information. We didn't realize that we were skewing in that direction, blah, blah, blah. But they'll do it, and you got to call them out on it. And lately, they don't do that anymore. Now they just give you a list of links, and they don't answer anything. So that's what's going on with AI in big tech. But it doesn't just stop with the AI and big tech. It goes on. It spills over into all sorts of other things like the news. The way they, in many ways, I would say they rigged the election in New York City very early on, propping one candidate over another and never turning from this trend, irrespective of polling or whatever. It was choice. It was just the choice of the media entity. And this has been the status quo forever, but will it remain the status quo? That's what I want to know. I want to go to your calls in a moment, but first I want to bring in our guest, Dan Schneider, Vice President of Free Speech at the Media Research Center. Dan, welcome back.
Hey, Rich, thanks a lot. And you've summed this up really, really nicely because it's both big tech, and that includes the news aggregators like Google News and Apple News, as well as the AI, and then also the elitist media that we've known for so many years at ABC, NBC, CBS. They were all practicing the same thing for the last month, the entire month of October, basically trying to be as quiet as church mice when it came to these elections, unless they were, of course, pushing a Democrat, but then hammering Republicans on the shutdown, blaming Republicans for the shutdown. This is their strategy.
Right, as if Trump himself shut down that government, put a padlock on the government, said, that's it, no mas. And it's fascinating to me that I feel like Trump is busier than ever because Congress isn't around to slow him down. So he's, doing world tours. He's over here. He's over there. He's doing all sorts of stuff. And yet they're out there saying it's his fault. And I can only imagine, Dan Schneider, and this is a little bit off topic, but it fits right in. I would imagine that Democrats are doing this because they're polling their base and they're saying, should we keep attacking Trump? Should every one of our candidates run against Trump? And I'm guessing their polls tell them yes. That's the only thing I could think of because I see it as a useless strategy because I feel like a lot of people are coming to me, at least, telling me this doesn't look right. And I'm talking about Democrats, people that are, sympathize with them, and they're saying this isn't fair. You even see it, even some in the media are calling out the Democrats.
Yeah. Rich, your listeners are very well informed. We've seen the data, of course. And so because they're so well informed, it may be hard for them to understand the average voter who's not so well informed.
That's
true. So when we analyzed the stories that say Google News was pushing out, the stories talking about the shutdown, more often than not, Trump's name was in the headline with the word shutdown. Trump shut down, or the Trump's not doing enough to stop the shutdown. Google News was picking those headlines that tied Trump to the shutdown, even though Trump and House Republicans have supported the continuing resolution to go forward. All the Senate Republicans have supported it. It's the Democrats, of course, who will refuse to vote to continue funding government. But Google News would never let anybody think that.
So this is where we are. And Dan Schneider, I feel like we've been here forever. I feel like when I was a young man and started listening to talk radio, I heard Rush Limbaugh talking about the drive-by media. I heard Mark Levin trashing the media. And then he wrote a book about the media. And they have not been wrong since. And I think I can say to the credit of the conservative movement, to the credit of President Trump and everything he's done, I think we've made some gains in that direction, but clearly not enough, Dan Schneider.
Well, look, it's a two-sided coin on this thing. The good news is that everybody is now aware how biased.
Well, and that's thanks to you guys, MRC. You guys are the best at awareness.
When Brent Bozell founded us 4 decades ago, the approval rating or the confidence in the media was hovering right about 90%. Today, it's like 25%. The bad news is that people are still getting their news and information from the media they don't trust.
Well, let's continue right there when we come back. Folks, we're coming right back with Dan Schneider, Vice President of the Free Speech Project at the Media Research Center. MRC.org is the website. We're going to continue talking about media coverage, the AI chatbots, and how the media continues to defend Democrats on this shutdown. Don't go anywhere.
Best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez.
I've got to tell you, I'm sitting here just stumped. Because you are a very different person than I thought you were.
Well, you've only seen me in clips and headlines, and that's not fair.
And that is true. Now, you've broken from the Republican Party on a number of issues, including, besides the shutdown, such as the war in Gaza, tariffs, Trump's desire to expand AI, foreign aid. But you've also had these clips highlighting the very public spats that you've had with your colleagues, where your behavior, some say, is just unbecoming for a congresswoman. And you're promoting conspiracy theories like QAnon in the past. But you seem to have grown past that. And I feel like I'm sitting next to a completely different Marjorie Taylor Greene. Why the change? Why the evolution?
Well, Sonny,
it's like you've gone so right. It's like you're on the left now. It's like this.
I'm not on the left, and we could talk about Russian collusion. That was a conspiracy theory and a lie. There's lies that come from both sides. Let's be really honest with one another.
Well, the Russians did try to affect the outcome of the election.
Russia collusion with Donald Trump was an absolute lie, and all the information's coming out. So both sides have had their lies, but here's where I'm at. All of this two-party fighting, you guys, you are all victims of the political industrial complex. And it's built on fundraising and fighting and toxic just garbage. And that exists all over social media, but that's not going to solve our problems in this country.
That is Marjorie Taylor Greene in an interview with the women from The View, of all places. And they seem to be quite enamored with her, quite smitten with MTG. And good for her. I wonder, is this a turning point in the media? Can we expect a new, friendly, or at least fair media, Dan Schneider?
No, of course not. Absolutely not. The only reason they gave MTG any smiles at all is because she, is wanting to compromise with the Democrats on the shutdown. But had I been on that View panel, I would have reminded them that Marjorie Taylor Greene is the one who chaired the DOGE committee where I attended, because that's where the end of NPR and PBS subsidies were put on the chopping block and killed. The View didn't ask her about that. They didn't ask her about anything that conservatives agree with MTG on. But there are lots of things that she's done that we applaud her for.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, I worked for Governor Chris Christie's administration, and something he famously always said was, it's a lot harder for people to hate you in your face. And that was why he tried to press the flesh as much as possible. And I think, it's kind of what Charlie Kirk stood for. Like, just keep talking. You'll figure out that we can have differences and get past them. I think the big issue is that we don't have these conversations. We do characterize people by clips. And the media just has a field day going in one direction, which is usually a dishonest one.
Well, the media are no longer comprised of journalists for the most part. The media is comprised of political activists pretending to be reporters. And some of the things that my colleagues at Newsbusters, the other side of the aisle at the Media Research Center, 87% of all of the shutdown coverage in the last month, essentially the October surprise, was negative toward Republicans, giving Democrats pretty much a clean slate. DeepSeek, earlier you were talking about Jay Jones, the guy who ran for Attorney General and won. I asked DeepSeek, how is it that a guy who says he wants to shoot the former Virginia Speaker of the House in the head, that he wants that guy's children to die in the arms of his wife? How could Virginia women vote for that guy? And DeepSeek said, I'm wrong. It's the other guy, Jason Miyares, who is, does not want to allow women to have abortions. It's Jay Jones who is protecting children. I mean, this is DeepSeek just flipping the script entirely. This is, whether we're talking about the elite traditional media or we're talking about social media and AI, they're all designed to help Democrats win and get Republicans in second place in a two-person race.
So, Dan Schneider, is this the end of truth? Does truth die with AI, or is there a silver lining at the end of this rainbow?
Well, the good thing is that we're onto them. The good thing is that Donald Trump won. Rich, the last time I was on your show, I talked a little bit about the difference between Biden's executive order on artificial intelligence and Trump's. Biden's executive order was going to protect Google's Gemini and help it catch up. Biden has essentially issued a gag order on his entire administration to essentially help Google, because Google's such a terribly managed company. It was way behind in the AI race. And Biden did everything he could to try to help Google catch up. And then Biden was going to shut down all the other AI companies and have only one. Trump, of course, is saying, no, we want a strong AI system for all Americans, and AI led by Americans, not the Chinese. He is using the power of the free market to propel all of these AI companies to do well, but he's also telling them you cannot train your AI systems on a biased left-wing model set, and he's starting to enforce that. We're seeing improvements. We're seeing improvements in X. Elon Musk bought Twitter, but it still has a lot of improvements to make. We're seeing improvements everywhere except for Google products. Google continues to be recalcitrant. It's digging in. It's just as bad as it's ever been. We've seen improvements everywhere else.
Yeah, and they've pretty much been bad across the board. I mean, honestly, with whether it's paid search, advertising, organic search, their bias has been pretty clear throughout. I doubt that's going to change. Do you?
No, they've just been hauled before Congress yet again. Ted Cruz was chewing out the Google lobbyist who was testifying, and that Google lobbyist was just sneering at Ted Cruz and vowing that Google is not going to change. Nothing that the government will do will satisfy Google. It wants the license to censor and silence anybody it wants. Now, some of the libertarians might say, well, it's a private company. No, it is a common carrier. And just like AT&T is not allowed to discriminate, Google shouldn't either. But Google is trying to resurrect the old Plessy versus Ferguson standard. And it claims that
separate
it has a right
equal?
and even worse, yes, it claims it has a right to discriminate against people because of their race, their skin color, their religion, their political viewpoint. For any reason, they've got a right to discriminate against people. Rich, Google thinks that if it doesn't like the color of your skin or your New York accent, they could deny service to you for that reason. Nobody else in America is allowed to discriminate based on any of those reasons.
That's wild.
But Google claims it has that right.
So what do people do, Dan Schneider? What do people do? They go to mrc.org. How do they equip themselves to join this fight?
I've got several AI models I used. I rotate through all of them. Some are better at some things than others. Perplexity seems to give very thorough answers. It has far less instances of bias. On news coverage, whether it's the elite traditional media or it's the social media, right? Come to the Media Research Center, either MRC freespeechamerica.org or newsbusters.org, and you can be educated how to read ABC, NBC, CBS reports online or the news. Learn how to be discerning, how to separate, their propaganda and their spin from reality. This is a battle. We had an election yesterday, and I've got great news for you. In Manhattan, and I mean my hometown of Manhattan, Kansas, the people rose up and said no to the city commission, and they elected people who are going to cut taxes and reduce spending.
Good.
That is happening in America too. And what people can do, like I subscribe to the Manhattan Mercury in Manhattan, Kansas. Subscribe to your hometown newspapers if you're from places like Manhattan, Kansas. That's where you're going to get better news coverage than from the New York Times or the Washington Post.
Yeah, well, honestly, both of those barely give you any news for free. You've got to become a member and pay their fee in order to get most of their news. So I think that's why the New York Post is killing them, usually in online stuff. Dan, I want to thank you for being here, brother. Folks, go check out everything that he's doing with the Free Speech Project at the MRC, mrc.org. Dan, tell people how they can find you on Twitter and other places on social media.
I exist online primarily on X, so it's at Schneider_DC. And that's where you can see my stuff, including I'm now doing the dumb daily thing of AI, how AI gives stupid responses. So you can,
that's funny.
Follow that
check
there
that out.
too.
All right. Check them out at you said Schneider
_DC.
DC. Outstanding, brother. Thanks for being here. Thanks for bringing us up to speed on what's going on. Godspeed to you and all the work you're doing, and we'll do it again real soon.
Thanks, Rich.
You bet. And amigos, we go to your thoughts, your calls, your reactions. We've got calls from Cleveland, from Tampa, from Pittsburgh, Indiana, Albany, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We're going to get to your phone calls, your questions, your thoughts, your opinions on everything that's going on in America at night with me, Rich Valdez. And I just want to remind you, or really thank you, right? I want to thank you. Continue to be one of the top-rated podcasts, the podcast of this program, which you can get on all of the podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, et cetera, as well as the website, richvaldez.com. You can just click play there and hear previous episodes. We do well there. And, constantly in the top 50 to top 100 of the government or news commentary charts. So thank you for that. And the anticipated return of This Is America is upon us. We will be resuming. The hiatus is over. That was my about a half hour long, 40 minutes max podcast that I do with respect to commentary on different topics that I don't always get to on the radio. And that's the one I like to say it's good. It's 3 10-minute segments or so that I've done for years, and took a little hiatus because of the elections. And now that those are wrapped up, we're back in action. So keep your eyes out for that. And more than anything, make sure you're subscribed to both of those, both America at Night and This Is America. They're not the same. And I have to thank you, not only for subscribing to those, but for the amount of 5-star reviews that we've gotten. I'm humbled by them. I'm truly grateful. Thank you for taking the time to leave those reviews. They make a world of difference, and thank you. And if you haven't, consider leaving one. And on that note, we go to the phones, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ, America's late-night national town hall conversation with me, Rich Valdez. We're going to go to, let's go to Kevin calling us from Albany, New York, WGDJ. Go right ahead.
Oh, hi, Rich. I love the guests you have. They're the greatest in the world. Now, the earliest guest, she said a Muslim, a devout Muslim, can put his hand on the Koran and lie. Now, I'm led to understand that Mamdani is a Muslim. So how does that leave abortion and homosexuality in the confines of the 5 boroughs? Do you think he's going to take action against them, or is it one of the cases where when he said he was a Muslim, he's not a Muslim, he's just flat-out communist?
Right. Yeah, very interesting question. Again, I don't know that we can make the presumption that he's lying because of his faith. I tend to make the presumption that most people involved in politics are lying. Like the old saying, how do you know a politician's lying? His lips are moving. Right, and I think that's particularly true of politicians that are on the left. So I think that's a safe assumption to think that they're oftentimes being dishonest, especially when they're making the case for something like $700 million worth of free bus. And listen, that may happen. It may be a campaign promise that he wants to implement. The issue will always be that he is going to hurt the city, and he's going to have to figure out a way to pay for that if that's really the campaign promise that he wants to make good on. Now, with respect to can we trust him, I think the answer is no. I don't think we can trust him. I wouldn't trust Zohran Mamdani, and not necessarily because he's a Muslim or because of taqiyya that Brigitte Gabriel was talking about, but moreover, because I think he's too pie in the sky for me, right? And I get it, though. I mean, listen, I'm going to try and be fair here and say I don't think Mamdani's lying about a lot of things. I think he's been very forthright in telling us that he's a socialist, why he thinks socialism is fantastic, why he thinks we should have free stuff in New York City, why things should become, when he says affordable, he means free. He means the transference of wealth. He's flat out said, I don't think that we should have these billionaires. He's flat out said he's not going to renounce the intifada. He's flat out said a lot of things that are, again, not lies. And I think that is, I'm not trying to credit him. I'm trying to say, you got to listen to him. We shouldn't discount what he's saying. I think we should take him very seriously and take him at his word, and only time will tell. Kevin in Albany, New York, thank you for the call. WGDJ, thank you, sir. Let us continue. Where do we go from here? We're going to Dante. Dante's in Indiana, Pennsylvania, America's oldest radio station. KDKA, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I wanted to come on and talk to you about why I believe we had a terrible night last night. And the last time, I don't know if you remember our call, we talked about last year's during last year's election time, and we all know it was a glorious night, especially for Donald Trump. Am I on?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a glorious time for El Trumpito, and you're right. Last night, not so glorious. I had to do it live, and man, that was tough. Let me tell you, I haven't had a tough time like that in a long time. It was really, really tough. I feel a little bit more enthused today because, kind of like when 2020, it was like, oh, what a crushing blow. But then Biden's there, and it's like, oh, this is an endless amount of ammunition. So I think we all need to be enthused and get ready for the battle that is to come. But I guess you're saying, we have to lick our wounds tonight because some of us, maybe not all of us, but some of us perhaps may have underestimated socialism in America. And I think you're probably right about that, Dante. Folks, we're coming right back. Dante, thanks for your call. Shout out to KDKA. We're going to come right back to more calls from Tampa, Florida, Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, St. Augustine, Florida, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. To the phones we go. And I know a lot of people want to weigh in on stuff, so I'm going to make sure we take calls into the next segment as well. So if you're online now, don't lose your spot in line. We do have a lot of people that want to sound off, and I want to hear what you have to say. Let's go to Stover, Missouri, KRMS, and check in with Andrea. Andrea, you're on with Rich Valdez. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Louisville, Kentucky. Was that Stanford Field they're calling Louisville Airport?
I'm not sure.
Because UPS has their own airport, and they take care of their own planes. And they shouldn't be coming out of Louisville or Stanford, whatever you want to call it. And see, they've got their own hangars where they wash all their own planes every time, and they inspect them every time they go out. For a wing to fall off, there's something wrong there. And for it to be coming from, they're calling it Louisville, which I'm thinking of Stanford Field, that they shouldn't be coming from that airport at all.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I really, it's a good question. And we have some aviation people we could reach out to that might have a better scoop on that. But I do know that a lot of times when we see these things happen, sometimes it's mechanical error. Lately, I see we have human error, right? That's the thing because of the lack of trained, available people. And that, by and large, is a problem I think that's going to continue to affect all of us. Jeremy in Cleveland, Eduardo in Tampa, Sam in Pittsburgh, Walter, stay on the line. We're coming right back. More calls. Give me about 6 or 7 minutes. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez. Live from the city that never sleeps.
17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome back for another hour of the program. We're 7 minutes past the top of the hour this Wednesday night. Our phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And we're continuing our post-election discussion on everything that happened there. I also want to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the world with respect to immigration, with respect to the culture, what's happening on college campuses. We're going to do that in a couple of minutes. But I did promise we were going to continue with some calls because we have a lot of Americans that want to weigh in on the election and other issues of national import, and we're going to do that. But I wanted to play a clip for you that I wanted to play yesterday, and I didn't get to it just because we had so much going on. And honestly, I was seeing stars from getting my butt beat so bad yesterday. So this is a report from the Fox News Channel that I think went underreported in New Jersey. Listen to this.
Polls have been open throughout New Jersey since about 6 a.m. Since then, a handful of bomb threats have been called in to a number of polling places across the Garden State. We know in Mercer County, as well as where we have seen in Passaic. It's unclear exactly how many of these polling places have been impacted, but because the polls were open, since they've been open since 6, a number of people who may have been in line or getting ready to go vote had to move off-site to other voting locations, at least temporarily. We've been at this elementary school here, not too far from where some of these threats were called earlier, because this is where the Democratic gubernatorial nominee is going to be voting. Mikey Sherrill should be voting here around 9 a.m. I just spoke to her campaign. They are aware of the situation impacting some of these polling places. The candidate is likely to address this when she gaggles with reporters in the 9 a.m. hour. All an indication, though, again, that there is a lot of people very curious what will happen here in New Jersey. The spotlight has been on this race nationally, and we have seen this before in other elections, but these potential threats, whether or not it's going to have a widespread impact on turnout, it's unclear. More than 1 million people cast their ballots ahead of Election Day. There was early voting, mail-in balloting as well. Where we are also, I've seen at least one police officer who was outside the polling place earlier. Unclear if it was related because the candidate was going to be here or if they were just checking things out. A lot of these threats are often communicated electronically, either email, they get sent to the registrar's office or the voting records office, and then out of an abundance of caution, these facilities are either evacuated or they...
So they've evacuated facilities in New Jersey. And that was part of, why some people are saying they didn't get the turnout they wanted. These things happened in key districts that would have benefited Republicans. And of course, you can't say it's, it's rigged or it's wrong because an attorney, election denier. But this is a reality of the dirty politics that go on in blue states, blue cities. They invented these games. And we've got to be hip to it, and we've got to be able to work around it, and very quickly. All right, I want to get back to your calls because there's plenty to discuss. Where do we go? Who was next up? Let me see. Where are we? Let's go to Jeremy. Jeremy was on hold. Cleveland, Ohio, WNIR. Jeremy, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Hey, Mr. Valdez with an S. How you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you, brother. I feel better today. Yesterday, I felt like crap. I was angry. I was sad. I was all over the place yesterday.
Same here, man. You're preaching to the choir. I think we need to repeal the 19th Amendment because from what I was reading, more than 85% of women under the age of 30 all voted for Mamdani. And, it just goes to show you that women vote with their feelings and not with logic. Yeah, and, even older women, too, though, Rich. It's not even just younger women. I can't tell you how many older women over the age of 40 I've read on Facebook commenting about how MAGA people are throwing temper tantrums and how men, how conservative men are, having hissy fits and that they need to grow a pair and this and that.
Well, listen, brother, I get what you're saying. I think this isn't about women per se. I think what happens here, God created women to be emotional, to be the one that kisses the boo-boo when, you fall down, you scrape your knee, and for your dad to be the one to say, hey, suck it up, buttercup, let's go. We got work to do. So I think you need women to be emotional. I think what's happening here is that the Marxists always cater to emotions. That's what they use. They use inequity. They use injustice or perceived feeling of injustice to try and get you onto their side. And, for some women, that's going to work better because they see the world through a prism that is more emotional in nature. But we just have to be better at doing what we do. And we take these lessons, and I think what you're stating is a valuable lesson. If we see that women are, and we had the same thing, right? Women during the Trump elections, both of them, that they were saying, will there be, will women break for Trump? College-educated women in a certain age group, mainly white women, right? All of these subgroups of women that go in that far left direction. So there's an opportunity there, and I think this is part of what it has always irked me in politics, because they're putting money into things. They don't want to put good money after bad. So if they say, in the last 3 elections, this particular subset of people has voted for the far left. So why are we going to waste our time there when we can go to people that are maybe on the fence, like Hispanic men or black men, that are a little bit more logical in their approach to making electoral decisions, and it's more bang for the buck. And that's how politics works. I'm arguing that I think we need to take a more blanketed approach and really work on decreasing the margin that the left has, doing what you're talking about, not repealing the 19th Amendment and saying they can't vote, but really taking the time to try and start winning women over, creating coalitions that go after women and specifically on the issues that matter to them. We're going to have to get a little bit more micro-targeted with our campaigning if we're going to be able to beat the likes of the incessantly smiling Mamdani, because there really is no other way. It's win, lose, or draw here, and the draw and the loss aren't something I want to sign up for, and I don't think you do either, brother. Thank you, Jeremy, for the call. Shout out to WNIR, Cleveland, Ohio, in the building. You know who else is from Cleveland? Bone Thugs and Harmony. Cleveland is the city that we come from, so run, run. If you don't know, Google it. Great band coming out of Cleveland. And we're going to continue with your calls. Tight on time because I have to take my break in a moment. But let me see. Where do we go? Who else is on hold for a minute? I have to go here. Sam, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Go right ahead.
Hello,
Sam,
can
you
hear
with
me?
Yeah, of course. Go right ahead quickly.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think that I would agree with you and Mark Levin so much when it comes to subsidies and entitlements and foreign money coming into the United States and influencing our politicians. I think we just are living in a different world where subsidies are given to the richest companies on earth, and entitlements are given to a country that deserves nothing from us, because they've done nothing but provided us with horrible intelligence since we've started helping them out. And when it comes to
I'm glad to hear that you agree with me and potentially with Mark Levin, and I'm presuming you're saying that we get bad intelligence from Israel, but I would posit that you got to look at them as our bodyguards in the Middle East, doing the work that we're not doing. And when you look at it that way, I think you'll frame it a lot better. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
What's up, America? It's Rich Valdez. Welcome back. We're going to continue our conversation. As you know, on Friday, there was, as the media is putting it, a father of 3 who was concerned about the children, and he got shot in the back. Of course, I don't have all the details on that, but they're claiming that ICE is being aggressive, and In fact, we see quite the opposite most of the time. We see ICE getting attacked by citizens, people ramming them with their cars. I just saw a video last night of ICE agents doing what they had to do and masked Antifa people with keffiyehs on, attacking the ICE officers. So things are getting wild in the streets for ICE. And we think, where does this come from? It comes from the indoctrination, the communist teachings that come out of higher education. But it's getting worse. We got a scoop from Emily Sturge from Campus Reform. Emily Sturge, welcome back. Talk to me about, you got a new piece right now that talks specifically about a new course that talks about training people to hate and attack ICE.
Yeah, of course. No, shocker. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm a reporter for Campus Reform, so I'm seeing this campus chaos all the time, but specifically this anti-ICE sentiment, especially with President Trump back in the Oval Office. It has just exploded on American college campuses. And my latest example, it's at UC Berkeley. It's this college course. It's taught by two attorneys that defend deportations of illegal immigrants. And they're actually teaching this course. They're teaching students about the Abolish ICE movement. They're teaching that ICE is a racist deportation force. They're teaching that it's white supremacist. And I actually went through these course readings. All of them are as leftist as they come. They are completely indoctrinating these students taking this course. And not a single course reading defends our Constitution or defends our national security. That's what's coming out of our education system right now. Administrators are bending over backward to protect illegal aliens, specifically under this administration since President Trump's return into office, instead of teaching the next generation to uphold the law. That's the message of our education system right now.
Emily Sturge, I look at this stuff and I think, this has been the norm, right? It really has been the norm to teach communist principles cloaked in socialism, cloaked in collectivism, cloaked in whatever neo-leftist terminology they come up with on campus. However, it's getting more specific, it seems. Now it's a how-to manual on go after these guys, and it's like they've revamped it. It's Hate America 2.0.
Well, how-to manual is correct because since this president has returned to office, we've uncovered at Campus Reform, universities have actually printed out how-to guides for illegal alien students, telling them how to get away from ICE, how to evade deportation, step by step, how to handle interactions with ICE officers. Don't open the door, don't speak. Harvard, some other universities in Boston have held these trainings teaching illegal aliens in Spanish how to evade deportation. Some of the first schools that we reported, Fordham University in New York was passing out these how-to guides. The University of North Carolina, Asheville was another example, one of the first schools to do it. But this is across the country where we're seeing universities provide these resources on their university websites, printing them out. Many universities have undocumented student resource centers, specifically for illegal alien students, and it's taxpayer funded. These universities are getting state funds. Some of them are getting local funds for these programs, but then they're also getting federal funds. These universities are taking federal funds, turning around and defending deportations for illegal aliens.
Emily Sturge, I have two daughters, and I remember when my oldest was applying to colleges and we were doing the financial aid stuff on the FAFSA website, and it connects to the New Jersey version of FAFSA, whatever it's called, I forget right now. And one of the questions was, are you in the United States legally or authorized or whatever word they used? And so, she looks at me, she's like, yeah, I'm a citizen, right? So she clicks, yeah. And I said, I want to see, put the other way. So she clicked the other way, and I saw what the next screen was, and it had all of these resources, and it said, oh, you are eligible for in-state tuition for, at the lower rate, which I thought was like, okay, it's a break, right? I don't want to split hairs, but it kept going and said, and if you can't afford that, and then there were other resources making it available. And I'm not trying to hate on anybody's kid, but I think if you want to give of your excess, that's on you. And Jesus says you probably should, but the government isn't called to do that, right? You're called to do that as a person with what you've earned for yourself. The government hasn't earned anything. They don't build anything. They don't sell anything. They're actually taking your money and everybody else's money and giving it away on their own whim, on their own behalf. And I think this is a really, really big problem because we're funding the the downfall of our country, because it's not because they're immigrants. It's because they're being taught to hate America.
Yes, absolutely. And this story with your daughter here, your daughter is an American student. She's not getting those resources handed to her. I've reported scholarships that illegal alien students can use that money for housing, for technology, for their textbooks, for medical bills, things like that. The University of Michigan, that's a specific scholarship I'm thinking of in my head. That university spent $100,000 on scholarships for illegal aliens to use for anything. That money could have gone to American students, but it's not. It's going to, the school is choosing to give it to illegal alien students. And then the in-state tuition for illegal aliens is something that I've reported a lot on. I'm from Florida, my home state. Governor Ron DeSantis did away with in-state tuition for illegal aliens not too long ago. It was earlier this year. I'm surprised Florida had it for that long. We've also seen the Department of Justice launch investigations into many states to overturn in-state tuition that was going to illegal alien students for a long time. Texas has overturned it. Oklahoma has overturned. But look, there's still 20 states to go. There are still many states providing discounted tuition rates to students that aren't American citizens, and maybe they're paying $10,000 a year, but American students who are out-of-state students are stuck with that massive sticker price. Some schools, it's like 50 grand.
Yeah, right. And again, the bigger issue here, because I think some people will hear this and say, well, why are you mad at those kids for trying to make it better in life? I'm not mad at them. I think that the issue here is that we are incentivizing something that is problematic in the country. And, I'll share a quick story with you, and then we'll take a pause and come back and continue this. But there's a restaurant that I love going to, a Spanish place, terrific. And one of the waitresses that works there, she came here on a visa, on a vacation, fell in love here, and didn't go home. So she was a visa overstay, ended up getting married to an American, and they're happily married now, so she's on her way to citizenship. But we were talking about this, and it's not because of her status. It's because she comes from Colombia. And in Colombia, they had an influx of Venezuelans and had a huge problem with immigration because taxi drivers started losing their jobs because the Venezuelans came in and started undercutting them on all their costs. Just like in any other society, it doesn't matter where they come from. It's when it's unchecked immigration, it hurts your economy. And yesterday we were talking, and she said, I don't follow the news. I'm not very political. She said, but this thing where they're cutting off the food stamps and all that. And she's like, I think that's a good idea. Wow. And I said, well, why? She said, because you can't incentivize, you can't give them more of a reason to stay or to come when you already have a problem. And she's speaking from the experience of, she saw this happen in Colombia. People were losing their waitress and waiter jobs because people were coming and saying, I'll work for half. And when people start, it's not a free market when you're importing labor that's cheaper than market rate. Right. I think that's kind of how you put your thumb on the scale of a free market. So I just wanted to share that because that's really my perspective here. I don't begrudge any kid. I want every kid that's in this country to go to college if that's what they want to do and to be great. But maybe not on my dime, right? Because I have two kids and I got to pay for them.
Let's put American students first.
That's it. And let your parents pay, right? Do what you got to do. I'd want the government out of absolutely everything. Amigos, we're on with Emily Sturge. She's with Campus Reform. She's got some amazing articles on their website. And we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez keeping you company until I figure out when I'm going home. Anyway, the phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ, taking your calls. Right now, we're going to continue our conversation on immigration, on Campus Crazies with Emily Sturge from Campus Reform. Now, Emily, you have a piece that is pretty insightful coming out of Nevada where there's some crazy stuff going on. Tell us more.
Yeah. So the Department of Justice is urging for an investigation into the University of Nevada, Reno, because this university for a long time, just like hundreds of other universities throughout this country, has been providing resources specifically to illegal aliens, using taxpayer funds to provide things like scholarships, in-state tuition, financial aid, things like that to illegal alien students. And one thing about this administration is both the Department of Justice and the Department of Education has been fantastic of looking into cases at universities, specific scholarships, specific financial benefits, and saying, look, these should be going to American students if they're paid for with American tax dollars. And so that university is just the latest example.
Now, let's talk about, I guess, your perspective, right? You're a Gen Z person that's covering these topics, and they're not new, but they seem to be getting worse from my perspective. What's, when you're digging in and getting the scoop on these things, what are some of the reasons you hear of people why they embrace this leftward movement on university campuses?
Well, if you look at a university campus today, you see anti-Americanism, you see anti-Semitism, you see anti-capitalism. It feels like so many of our college courses go back to those three things. Any political science class, any classes in the social sciences. Once again, that's a reason why if you're going to go to college, you should probably look more into degrees, something like business or finance, something that you learn less of the ideology. But leftist ideology has overtaken our courses so much that those three things, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Semitism, has just pervaded Gen Z's life. And we were talking about the election here in New York City. Because that's what so many Gen Zers are learning in the education system, we are going to see it. There's a good chance we see it at the ballot box. And now we're seeing Gen Zers take that mindset from college. They're taking it to the corporate world. They're taking it to life after graduation. And they're going to be taking it as they cast their votes in this election.
And moving besides New York election and the Virginia election, I'm looking at the other day, I saw something that said, AOC for president. And this is, I think, her first year where she's able to run because she'll be 35. And I thought, probably not the first time a member of Congress has run for president, but I consider her to be an ineffective member of Congress because she really hasn't gotten too many bills passed that she introduced, which is, I think, the job there, right? To vote on them, introduce new bills, make laws. She hasn't done a whole ton of that. I think she got a post office renamed in the Bronx. And right, so shout out to the post office in the Bronx with a new name to AOC. But I feel like there's a lot of sizzle and not a lot of steak. I think it's crazy. I don't think that's something that has a lot of gravitas. Chuck Schumer, I think, takes exception to what I'm saying, and I think he disagrees. I think he's afraid of AOC and thinks that she could mount a credible statewide primary against him, and that's why he kind of caves to certain things. Is that the sense that you have when you're doing this research across the country, that the lefties are that popular?
Well, here's what I'll tell you. Socialism is coming to a city near you. When we have this conversation about Mamdani, a lot of people tune out because 98% of the country doesn't live here in New York City. And so they just assume, oh, that's just New York craziness. But this is popping up in cities nationwide. I mean, we're here talking about AOC potentially being a candidate in 2028, bringing that radical leftist ideology into the mainstream. It's not just the New York City race. In Seattle, Katie Wilson is the candidate there. She's a far lefty, defund the police, anti-Trump candidate who has a good shot at winning. Seattle. Well, my hometown, Miami, Florida, we have a woman running down there.
Oh, my gosh.
Who says that Fidel Castro is her hero.
I saw that clip. I got to tell you, that's crazy. That is like heresy in Miami.
It is. And I'm from a neighborhood where I grew up around probably 98% Cuban American population. They flipped Miami-Dade red.
Yeah.
This is a population that loves this country, loves freedom. They came to this country because they love freedom. And now we have a far left socialist candidate running in Miami-Dade saying that she idolizes Fidel Castro.
But this is great. And I wish I could play this video for everybody right now, but this woman is nuts, right? And I don't say that because I'm a biased conservative. I think most people would look at her, and I think AOC would look at her and say, I think she's nuts.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I do, because that woman is she didn't just say like pro-socialism. Like AOC's kind of smart in that way. Here's an outtake for you, right? She follows the Bernie Sanders. It's the billionaires. It's the billionaire. She's never praised Fidel Castro, right? AOC's not dumb to do that. Maybe she's dumb, but she's not dumb enough to do that. But this woman did, and she did it in Miami.
And she doubled down on it.
She did, and I saw
interviews.
Mayor Suarez from giving a reaction to that, and I'm thinking, how? She's not from there, that I know, but she's been there long enough to know you don't do that there. You know, it was the craziest thing I've seen really to date, and it made me laugh, and
but
it still makes me
that
laugh.
Crazy?
That is crazy.
Look at Boston. We have Michelle Wu. In Chicago, we
She's
have
crazy
Brandon
too.
Johnson. We have these very far
and Omar
left.
Fateh, who's running.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's another example. Is that Minneapolis?
Yeah. Whoa.
Socialism is coming to a city near you. It's no longer 98% of the country that can write this off and say, oh, it's just in New York City, because it's in cities popping up throughout the United States. And cities are hubs of influence. Ideas spread outward. Policies spread outward. These ideas are becoming more mainstream, and we need to be aware of it.
Emily Sturge, I am 47. I've lived a different life than people from Gen Z. I owned a business at 16. And I did different things. I love America because it gave me a lot of opportunity. How do you sell what I'm selling to people in your age group? Because I think they don't like it. They like Bernie Sanders. They like AOC. They like free. They want a free train. I don't want a free train. I want no tax.
Well, this is exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is why I'm reporting on the higher education system at Campus Reform, because it is our education system that is teaching young people to put their hands out and ask for things that are free. If you walk on a college campus today, you will see signs that say capitalism is theft, capitalism is evil. College courses absolutely demonize capitalism and praise socialism. I was reading through some course syllabi. Harvard University had a course there. It's no longer offered, but for a while it was offered, where they taught that capitalism contributed to climate change. So that meant that capitalism is evil. It's killing the earth. And so it makes sense when you start reading the course syllabi, why so many young people are on board with doing away with capitalism, why they would support a candidate like Zoran Mamdani. It makes more sense when you actually dig into it, look into the course readings, and look what they're learning in the classroom.
Something you and I have in common is I grew up around a lot of Cubans, and so did you. And let me tell you, it's hard. They don't allow it. Right?
They're hard workers.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, 15, 14, I would go to my friend's house, meet their parents. They would legit ask, who are you, where are you from, where are your parents from? They wanted to know if you came from a socialist country. Like if you said Venezuela, they were going to look at you sideways. They wanted to know, did you break ties with that? They were so strong on this. Those people can smell that stuff coming from so far away. And I love that about them. I have one of my good friends, Cuban guy, came here from on a jet ski from Havana, Cuba to Key West. And diehard American. He's a citizen. He loves his country. He's probably one of the 2 or 3 Cubans I've met in my life that isn't a hardcore conservative Republican, but he still loves America. He just doesn't like Trump. But I'm working on him. But my point is, these guys, one thing they all hate is communism. They hate it because they've lived it. We were talking last week, and he tells me, he's like, yeah, I remember when I was in the Army, I was really hungry. And I was like, why, they don't give you food? And he was like, no. And it ended there. He was like, yeah, just because you're in the Army. He's like, it's the government. The government does what they feel like doing. They give you a little bit of food, and that's it. You're on your own. And he's like, this isn't like here. Every time I ask a question, he always says, it's not like here. He's like, here, they want your military to be strong. He's like, there, these guys look malnourished because they don't care. They don't care about anything. Nobody's invading Cuba. It's all a show. And he always tells me it's all smoke and mirrors because all they do is lie. And the more you starve, the more the guys at the top skim off the top and eat. And that is just such a shame. And like you said, it's coming to a city near you, and that's scary. Emily Sturge, tell everybody how they find you and your articles.
I'm at Real Emily Sturge on all social media platforms, and I'm posting articles every day at campusreform.org.
Campusreform.org, at Real Emily Sturge on all the social media. And what's the next big thing you're working on?
I am constantly looking out for these taxpayer-funded resources going to illegal alien students, and we've done some great reporting at Campus Reform. Since I've been uncovering things happening on campuses, we've seen the administration take notice and actually target, investigate, and cut some of the resources that we're reporting.
Kudos to you. God bless America. Emily Sturge, Campus Reform. I'm Rich Valdez. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, I think it's not just a message about Democrats. It's a message about our entire country. I think that Americans are appalled by what they are seeing coming out of this administration. They are appalled by the cowardice of Congress, by these Republican majorities in the House and in the Senate. I think that they are Donald Trump now for who he is, which is a handmaiden to billionaires and a handmaiden to corporate interests that are making working class life impossible in America. And I think that they want to send fighters in every single pocket of this country to fight for working people to make life affordable and safe for all.
That is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all out crazy AOC. And she's weighing in last night from the Mamdani headquarters, blaming Trump, blaming Trump, blaming Trump. It's all about blaming Trump. This is their strategy. It seems to have worked in New York City. Will it work everywhere else? I don't know. I would suspect not. But I do think that we're going to get to a deal relatively soon on this shutdown, because the more they double down on Trump, I think it's the more that they're realizing their constituents are pushing back. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on elections, on everything else, illegal immigrants and college campuses, whatever you got. I'll take it. Let's see. Where do we go? We're going to go to Walter, St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Walter, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rich. You know, the scriptures teach us what happened to Curtis last night. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11. The swift don't always win the race, nor do the mighty win the battle, nor the wise have the food, nor the intelligent have the riches, nor those with knowledge have success, because time and unexpected events overtake them all. And that's what happened to Curtis faced, the time and unexpected events of what's happening in the world today. But Rich, instead, Curtis can just continue to help those in the subways. And like Jesus said, when you did it for the least, you did it for me. That's Curtis's real victory. Hermano.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, I love what you're saying, and I hear that, brother. No doubt in my mind, Curtis is going to continue to do amazing and great things, and I wish he would consider another run. I don't think he's going to, but I think that he's really, what he brings to the table is what New York City needed. Walter, thanks for the call. Shout out to WFOY, Florida in the building. Let's continue. We're going to keep it in Florida. Let's go to Tampa, Florida, streaming the show out of his old stomping grounds in Chicago, WLS. Let's go to Eduardo. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Rich, good evening. I got a couple of interesting stories here. We have ships from South America that are going to Belgium, to ports like Belgium, Spain, and Netherlands. So the PM of Netherlands is thumbs up on these bold shoot downs near Venezuela and Colombia. And New York is going to look like Antwerp, Antwerp, in Belgium.
Europe.
The shooting gallery, that's how it's going to be in New York in a few years. And there's a story in Telemundo of illegals from Central America who acquired these licenses on the internet. I think this should be a first top-of-the-line story of all newscasts. They did this for the past 3 years, 2,000 of them, and they got them for $1,300.
Well, I'll definitely check it out. I mean, it's very interesting, and I haven't heard about it, so you're breaking news to me. I haven't heard it. I mean, I know that there's been illegals buying driver's licenses and whatnot, but I know Antwerp, by the way, is where everybody goes to sell jewels when they steal them. Like all this stuff they stole from the Louvre, this is where they're doing their investigating in Antwerp. So we'll see what happens with that. Thanks for the tip. I appreciate it. Eduardo, as always, got his finger on the pulse of what's going on. Let us continue. I want to go to Michael, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA. Go right ahead.
Rich, great to talk to you again. I had to call in after, of course, last night's election. I just want to make a couple points. I agree with you. Curtis Sliwa was by far the best candidate. I'm sorry that the voters in New York didn't see it that way. But I believe the direction that our modern Democratic Party has taken us is going to cost some important votes in the midterms about a year from now. And I often wonder, Rich, what our founding fathers would have to say to our modern Democratic Party.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a very good point. What would they say? I would love to think that they would yell at them and say, I can't believe what you're doing to this country. Yeah, I think they'd sound a lot like Mark Levin, in my opinion, and I would hope that they would. But since they can't speak up, we're going to have to. It's incumbent upon us to do the right thing. Michael, Pendleton, Oregon, KUMA. Thank you, sir. Shout out to you. One more, then I pause, and then I come back for the rest. For the win, Chuck, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. Go for it.
Oh, my goodness. I can't believe I got in here. Thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure.
It's a little bit past my bedtime, but I always laugh when you said, I'm brown and I'm bald. And I always, if you can't make fun of yourself, then
that's right.
Life goes on. Yeah,
you gotta have fun doing this
it.
stuff. What's on your mind tonight, Chuck?
Absolutely. Okay, you was talking about the UPS jet that went down.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a very long time UPS employee, almost 39 years, and this broke my heart when I heard that. Nobody
I would bet.
thinks about going to work and you're going to die.
That's
I mean,
brutal.
there's always a chance, but
no, listen, you're not lying, brother. I can't imagine. You know, I got into this business and I'd seen that movie Talk Radio, where the talk radio host gets killed at the end by an angry listener. And I thought to myself, that's a reality that, I'm signing up for. And it's in the back of your head, but, you don't really expect that. It's kind of like you can't live in fear, like I'm going to get hit by a bus or anything else. And, in a situation like this with the plane literally falling out of the sky, just brutal. Who thinks about that? And, my thoughts, prayers for strength and for peace in this tough time for all the families of, these individuals. It's brutal. It really is heartbreaking. Chuck in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, thank you, and congrats on your storied career, brother. Amigos are coming right back. Montreal, Montana, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Let us continue with your calls. Tony, Montreal, Canada, WVMT. Quickly, go right ahead, sir.
Rich, I just want to make it clear to the American people that we had our own Zoranista in Montreal for 9.5 years. She completely destroyed our city with woke agendas, green scam, greenhouse policies, reconfiguring the city, turning us into revolutionary reverse transportation, which I call bike transportation, our complete city.
Same thing in New York. And you know what? I think we're going to see that and more on steroids in New York City. And I think a lot of it is inevitable. But keep it coming, Tony. I want to make sure you keep us up to speed since you already had a Zoranista in Montreal. Frank in Evergreen, Montana, says that the word meaning dates back to the 13th century. Well, you know what, Frank? I want to hear more about that, but I can't do it now. I appreciate the call and hope you'll give me a call mañana. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.